Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our next live session. I'll be your producer for our session, but before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Microsoft Reactor channel. With that, I'll turn it over to our speaker for today. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we would be going through the topic Unified Data and AI Workflows with Fabric, Databricks, and AI Foundry. This is Shweta Kamath. I am an account technology strategist at Microsoft. So let's get started. Let's first get some background on what is it, how it happens as of today, what are the challenges that are faced, and then maybe we'll keep diving down onto what are the data challenges, AI challenges, and how do we solve them. So, what are the typical challenges that organizations face? Say, coming to the data landscape. So maybe I'll just get my pointer in here so that you can see it. Yeah. So let's start with the left side. If you see the data landscape as of today, it is very common to see that there are multiple analytics services which are there in a current ecosystem. The data sources are very disconnected. So we typically see that there are some data sources which are on-prem. There are also some data sources that are on cloud, on multi-cloud. So data is currently situated at multiple places. Then there are a lot of isolated applications. So not all data are situated in one place, which makes it very difficult to execute anything and then execute an AI use case as well. So if you come to the right side, and if you see an AI development landscape, you see that they lack the integrated tools. There is a lot of insecure data grounding. So basically, when you actually ask your LLM model some question, you're not sure if whatever response you are getting is from the data that is in store for the customer, like it's in there in the customer base. And also the orchestration which is there is very challenging. There is an ineffective deployment of AI across websites, applications, production environments. There are restrictions on predefined models. It's very challenging to customize those models. So a lot of the times you do realize that there is a need to have a model which is very specific to that use case. So if for example you are going to do a fraud detection use case, you might need to fine tune that model. So in such a disintegrated environment, it is very difficult to do all these things, and there are multiple challenges that you face. And also from a security and data privacy risk perspective, I think security is key, and we will speak about these things in the coming slides. But security is of very, very high importance in all AI application use cases. So after having seen the challenges, let us move to what is agentic AI. So a lot of buzz about agentic AI, and everybody wants to know and wants to implement agentic AI as of now. But in very simple terms, agents use AI to automate and execute business processes nearly autonomously. So these two words, nearly autonomously, is very important because agents are autonomous, so they can perform processes. They have a brain of their own, but at the same time, most there are many use cases where a human intervention is required, and hence the word nearly autonomously, because there might be a human who might be brought into the loop to actually do the decision making at the end. So while you have the lower risk use cases where you could do the automation entirely end to end by an agent, the rest of the use cases where they are of high they are critical, or they are really something that has a high value, high commercial value, is wherein you actually get a human in the loop. And then the next statement says that they can plan and adapt to new information and act on tasks independently. Again, this concept is very important because traditionally the systems that we built were all more like, you go from point A to point B to point C, and then the system did not have a brain of its own or a reasoning capability of its own, and you had to define every step for that system, which was a traditional system. What AI and agentic AI gets is the capability to adapt to new information and then act on a task independently. So that's what makes this very different. That's what makes it, a modern way of looking at things. So now, after understanding what is agentic AI, let's go ahead. So where are we now? We are in reactive. So how do you build a very simplistic AI model? So till yesterday, we all know that there were RPA processes which were able to complete repetitive tasks and they did their job well. But what has changed today? So like we just spoke, that today we have a user and then we have a single AI agent. So we are keeping it very simple at the start. And we are saying that there is a single AI agent and then there is a human supervisor, like I just spoke. And these two together are able to take an intelligent action. So while an RPA would have just automated the process, now here this process with an AI agent and then coupled with a human supervisor are able to do things more intelligently and might get you insights which the earlier system would not get. So moving on, but where we are headed. So while single agent is a good way to get started, and you could replace your current systems by single agents, where we are headed is more towards autonomous, adaptive, and experiential AI. So if you see, if there is a user, there are multiple agents that will exist or rather coexist in your ecosystem, and then there will be a human supervisor. So like we say that more and more you will see that agents will coexist with human beings, and that's where we speak about frontier firms, and where we see that along with humans you will also start having digital colleagues in your workspace, in your ecosystem, in your environment, and every user, even in your day to day life, you will be accompanied by agents and they will assist you in their day to day tasks. But all these means that there will be collaboration that will be required between agents. So they will have to collaboratively solve complex tasks. So for example, every agent might specialize in a particular skill, and then these agents will come together, they will discuss, they will contemplate, and then they will complete the entire exercise. So it's very interesting the way that we are going, and it will definitely be an environment where we all will coexist together. Having said that, while we speak about agents, and like we were talking at the start, you do need a unified intelligent data estate to be built for these agents to work seamlessly. Now that would also mean that it had needs to be built on an open and governed data lakehouse. Both these terms very important: open on one side but also governed. Now let us have a look at this diagram at the right. What does this mean for us, and how do we actually take these things forward? So I will just start moving from above. So if you see, the first box that you see is data integration. So like we discussed, within an organization or within any use case that you typically pick up, you would have data at disparate sources. It becomes very important for you to execute any AI use case to get the relevant data together. So data integration, very important. How do you do the data integration? You would do the data integration using data engineering. Most of us are aware data engineering is the process by which you do the end-to-end ingestion, the data quality, and all those checks. So that's basically what stands for data engineering, getting that data into the data lake or the lake house. Then you have a data warehouse, which we this concept is more or less familiar with all of us, wherein data warehouse is where you have been storing your data traditionally for all possible use cases. Then you have data science and ML. Data science and ML is where you do your machine learning and do a lot of traditional model building and all that which happens in data science and ML. Real time data, very important again. Even from an agentic perspective, that the data needs to be very relevant, especially if you see agentic use cases. You cannot say that I will get data which is like even 2 hours old or 3 hours old. So basically, when an agent has to take a decision, say for example, I swipe my credit card, and then at that moment in time my credit card doesn't work, and the agent needs to understand why is that card not working, or how do I unblock this scenario. It needs the data at that moment, what went wrong in the system, what are the transactions. So it needs relevant data. So real time data is a very important factor for agentic AI use cases. Business agent intelligence, like we already know, reporting, dashboarding, that happens traditional systems continues, but there we will speak about in the later slides of how AI has even modernized the business intelligence part. And then you have data monitoring and action. This again is a very important component, though not spoken about as much, but data monitoring is very important from the point of view of auditability, traceability, observability. So this also is a key component in the process. Now, moving to the second layer, if you see, the second layer that we have is unified data foundation. So, like we said, that within, say, you say, for example, you take an organization, you see that all the functions have to come and integrate the data. Now, how you integrate is again a topic for discussion, whether you get the data physically or you get the data virtually, but you do need to create a unified view of the data to actually make sense of the data within the organization. And then this layer, if you see virtualized or mirrored data sources, speaks a lot. So when we say virtualized or mirrored data sources, the first box that you have here is cloud providers. So you might have your data which is we live in a world of multi cloud, so you will have data situated in various clouds. How do you get that data together virtually, at least if not physically? This is one of the ways that you could do in Fabric, and we will speak about it. The second part that you see here is databases. Databases, again, you have databases like Snowflake, Azure Cosmos DB, SQL DB, MongoDB. Getting the data out of all these data sources, mirroring these data, and then getting it to the unified data lake. And then definitely you have other sources that an organization might have. You might have files, you might have custom applications. So this again forms the third box. And above all of this, if you see what lies as the base or foundation, is the data governance and security. Whichever system you choose should actually have a data governance and security layer covering all of that. We will also speak about that in the successive slides, but these are like very important parameters to consider when productionizing your use cases. Moving to the next slide, uh, this is where we come to start of Microsoft Fabric. What is Microsoft Fabric? Microsoft Fabric is a data platform for the era of AI. Okay, specifically designed keeping in mind that we are moving into a situation where there are a lot of AI use cases that are being developed. So where are we moving towards? If you see the left hand side, we are moving from an era where there are multiple analytics use services like we just discussed. They are all disconnected in nature, they are isolated applications, and the gen AI, that is all these capabilities need to be built in these applications. So all the traditional applications that you currently use are may not be supportive of the AI use cases. What happens when you switch to Microsoft Fabric? You get a unified stack. So all that we spoke about comes as a unified stack in Fabric. All the data comes in one place, and the entire estate. So basically, you have end to end, like you can have a unified view of the data, and then you have generative AI also built in. Moving to the next slide, let us dive a little bit deeper into Fabric. So, if you see, this is the unified data platform for AI transformation. Now, I will move to the boxes one by one. So, if you see, the first box that is here is Data Factory. What is data factory? Data factory is something like we spoke about ingestion on that slide. So data factory is something that helps you get the data into your fabric. So this is the first component where you enter or you ingest the data into fabric. The second component that you see here is analytics. In any ecosystem that you see, you need reporting, you need dashboarding, you need to get a view of what your data actually means. So, analytics is that. The next box that you see here is databases. Databases, like we all very well aware, the databases that we have, which currently store all the OLT information that is required for the organization. This box represents that. Real time intelligence, we already spoke about that it's very important to get real time data also in to get meaningful insights of your data. It's not always that you get data that is t minus one, that is 1 day old or 2 day old. You need real time data for many of the use cases, especially AI use cases. Moving to the last part, Power BI. We lot of people already aware of Power BI has been a reporting tool and a very robust tool at that one. But AI has also been introduced in Power BI, and we'll discuss that how, which makes even Power BI very much gelled with AI, and you could see use cases on how you can converse with your reports. So, having said that, if you come to the lower layer, you have so what does Fabric support? Fabric supports AI. Fabric supports OneLake. Now, OneLake is an interesting concept where OneLake helps you to get the data from multiple ecosystems. It could be your SharePoint, it could be your OneDrive, and then it could also be data that is situated in databases in other clouds. So, OneLake provides like a unified platform for your data. And then you have Purview, like we were saying, governance is of prime importance, and hence here you have Purview to govern your data. So now, after having a little bit of overview on Fabric, let's move to OneLake. Now, this is the OneLake that I was speaking about. Let's deep dive into what is OneLake. OneLake is the centralized place where you store your data. What does OneLake do? It reduces the data duplication by using a single copy of data to power all your workloads and engines. All workloads automatically store their data in OneLake in Parquet format. Parquet, if you know, is one of the formats that has been traditionally used in lake houses. So this is the Parquet format in which the OneLake stores the data. Bring your data together in an intuitive hub that's automatically indexed for discovery, sharing, governance, and compliance. So, the people who have been working on traditional systems, on HDFS systems in the past years, will have an idea that to build such a system definitely takes months, years to build this ecosystem where you have sharing, you have governance, you have compliance. But we have now reached a stage where Fabric will provide you all these capabilities out of the box. You don't need to build something additional for governance. You don't need to build anything additional for compliance. They're all provided as services. And the whole thought process is so that you can get started immediately. You don't have to provide much time to all these services. It's just faster time to market because all is readily available. You just get your data and get started. The next point, gaining end to end visibility, usage, adoption insights, and industry leading governance and compliance capabilities. So, once you have the data in one place, or rather, once you have your data as a unified platform, is when you actually gain visibility of what's happening. There is more complete insights that you could get from your data. You could also track your usage, and you could also track adoption insights. So, moving to whatever we spoke, if you see the diagram at the right, all this represents this. And if you see what it means, is that the same data factory, the same data engineering, data science, data warehouse, Power BI, they all dip into the same one lake. What means what are we creating here? We are creating a single source of truth. So earlier, how it used to happen is that the data warehouse used to have data situated somewhere else, from where you would only do some analysis. Power BI reporting used to happen from a different place, and then your data science workloads would actually refer to some files or Excel. So that used to be different. What we are saying happens with OneLake is that it is a unified platform. So every ecosystem, if you say data engineering, if you say analytics, if you say Power BI, all dip into OneLake, giving you a unified view, and they also write back into OneLake, which makes it richer every moment because updates are also made in the same place. And again, stressing on this point, at the end of it all, at the base, you do need a unified security and governance to actually govern your entire ecosystem. I cannot stress enough, security and governance of prime focus. So when you start off with the use case is also when you should actually keep security and governance in mind, because it cannot be an afterthought. It has to be done when you are starting off with a use case. Having said that, now let's move forward. We say that data duplication is reduced by virtualizing the data in OneLake. Now, what happens here is that not always you are able to get the data. So, see, traditionally, what we see is that in many organizations, the data is already present within a lot of traditional systems, other clouds, and it's not always possible to physically ingest all the data in one place. One is the time it takes to build these data platforms to get it in one physical place. Then it will also lead to data duplication because it is now situated at various places. And also the financial impact of spending so much money of getting all this data to one place. So while we understand that, what Fabric does is it has a very important capability called mirroring. So if you see, what it does is it more creates like a virtual connection. So while the data resides in all these components, you still see it as a part of Fabric. So I think this is a beautiful capability of mirroring that you have, and you can definitely explore. So mirroring is one concept where you actually get the data and you don't have to build your CDC pipelines. And then you also have these multi-cloud shortcuts which help you in virtualizing the data. So if you have a combination of mirroring and multi-cloud, you could actually take a call on getting some of the data physically and the rest of the data as multi-cloud shortcuts. And then Fabric also supports open access APIs and open mirroring, which means that whatever is your mirrored, so when you do mirroring, actually what happens is you don't need to build separate CDC pipelines for each of these data sources. And then with open mirroring, what happens is the ISVs or the APIs that are there can directly access the mirrored data, and they can even write to the mirrored data. So there might be use cases where you don't want to make a change directly into the source data system, but you definitely want to make a change in the lakehouse or in the mirror data. So that's how open mirroring helps you. Now moving forward, if we see, coming to Copilot in Fabric and Power BI. So Power BI is a reporting tool that we've been using for ages now, and it's a very stable and robust tool. But how has AI changed Power BI, or how has it enhanced Power BI? So you also now have a Copilot which is there in Power BI. For those who don't know what is Copilot, Copilot is the conversational capability which helps you to converse with your reports. So once you build a Power BI report, you can also start conversing in natural language, start asking it questions, and it can basically answer questions on your reports. So what does it do? So you can create, first of all, a report by chatting with Copilot. So you can tell Copilot what you want to see, and Copilot will generate that report out of you. Then you can define the metrics and calculations for your data model just by describing them in natural language. So you can say that I want this metric basically, maybe I want to see it only for the period from Jan to June, or maybe I want to see it over a span of 4 years. These you can do not by coding or not by even drag and drop. You can just instruct your Copilot that this is what I want to see, and it will generate the report for you. And then the last part is using Copilot to find and summarize insights in your data. This can be done beautifully, and you can even try this out, that you could just tell Copilot that, go into my data, this is the data, what this is how I want to visualize my data, and it will build it for you. So these are more like very it's a different experience, because you're even reaching an era where reporting and dashboarding is becoming very much supported by AI. Some people also refer it to as conversational AI, conversational BI. So these are the kind of things that you can see in Power BI. Now, moving forward, coming to Azure AI Foundry. Now, we spoke about Fabric, we spoke about Power BI. Now, let's come to Azure AI Foundry. So, what happens in Azure AI Foundry is, again, let me start moving from left to right. What are the typical components that you see? Or first one coming to is the Copilot Studio. So if you see, Copilot Studio sits outside the Azure AI Foundry. What it does is it is more like a low code platform from where you build agents. What it does, it really fastens your development time, because you don't need as much time. There is not much code to be written. You don't need people who are coders also to build agents. You can just have even business analysts building agents for you. The other thing that Copilot Studio really does well is that it has inbuilt connectors. It supports MCP, it supports A2A. So what it happens is that you could just build agents on the fly and productionize use cases within days and weeks. So this is what Copilot Studio does. Then you have the second one is Visual Studio. Visual Studio is our AI assisted IDE, which has a lot of toolkits that you could use. It has a Foundry toolkit, it has agents toolkit, which you can use, and you can fasten your coding process and development process. GitHub, like we know, GitHub again is AI assisted as of today. Your sharing collaboration has become very easy with GitHub. And then you have the Azure AI Foundry SDK. So while there are ways, and we will speak about it. So Foundry SDK also provides programmatically accessing each of the services that you see on the portal or on the UI can also be done using Foundry SDK, and definitely a more customized way of doing things, and you can build advanced agentic use cases using AI Foundry SDK. So now coming to the right, if you see, what we have here is the model catalog. Model catalog within Azure has like it's like thousands of models out there. I think I know the number keeps increasing every day, but everything from it does not only have Llama models. It has it does not only have OpenAI models. It has open source models. It has DeepSeek. It has every other model that you name. All have come into the model catalog. So you rarely even need to look outside. You get the required models in the model catalog. So you have foundational models, you have open source models, you have task models, and then you also have industry models, which are very specific to industry and have been catered to, look after those industry use cases. Then coming to the lower layer here, Azure AI Open Service for all your AI use cases. Azure AI Search is more like now helps you in creating vector databases, knowledge repositories. Great for AI use cases because it provides you that vector DB, and it has a lot of advanced capabilities. Like it also supports you having custom SLMs sit at the background. It also helps you in you doing a lot of chunking and semantic chunking, and all that support is there. So a very great use case, and a very mature one at doing the vector databases and knowledge repos. Then you have Azure AI Agent Service. Azure AI Agent Service actually helps you build agents very quickly. It's more like even gives you a low code interface to do that. You could build single and multi agent use cases using Azure AI Agent Service, and it provides an easy integration with the rest of the AI ecosystem, because from an Azure AI Agent Service you could easily connect to a Fabric, which we will see later, but also your AI search, and any of the other AI services that you have. So very quick to build agents using this service. Then you have content safety, like we've been stressing on security governance. So you monitoring what goes out in the content of LLMs, and then blocking them as required. You test the LLMs for content, harmful content. So all that possible using Azure AI content safety. And Azure ML, you doing the machine learning, again advanced ML use cases all can be performed. Also doing ML ops, all that is possible using Azure ML. So what we can do here is evaluations. Like I said, you could evaluate the behavior of your LLMs, behavior of your agentic processes. Customization, so you could also customize to a great extent, use existing models or customize, fine tune, build SLMs, even customize your agents to work better. Governance, from a governance perspective, a lot of features, and we will see that how it integrates with the larger ecosystem of Microsoft. And then monitoring, so a lot of capabilities on observability and monitoring, wherein we see that we do have capabilities which allow you to do tracing, and it also has support with open telemetry. So anything that system that supports open telemetry can easily be integrated, and you can also see where, how much time at which step, what exactly has been done, how many tokens has have been consumed. So all of that can be seen in the observability and monitoring space. So now, after understanding Azure AI Foundry, let's go ahead. So now, what does this mean? So we spoke about Fabric, we spoke about Power BI, we spoke about Foundry. So if you can see here at the center, you can see Fabric, Foundry, Copilot, which is was there in Power BI, which is also there in Fabric. But above all, like we have been saying, that security is of prime importance. And the if you see the outer layer that is here, is the security layer that embraces these technologies and keeps them secure. So, for example, you have Defender for an endpoint protection, you have Entra for identity and access, you have Purview, which helps you with RBAC for data classification, you have Sentinel to analyze your logs, you have Intune for app and device management. So, all these combined ensure that whatever are your AI use cases, whatever are your data use cases, they are secure, and they also help you block, control, limit whatever use cases that you are picking up. So this again very important, because you are actually integrating security governance closely with your data and AI. Now, moving on, here, if you see, how do you build your powerful Gen AI experiences? So, you have Fabric here, and you have AI Foundry here. So, at the left, you have Fabric, which is your unified solution for analytics. And at the right, you have AI Foundry, which is your gateway to AI apps and custom copilot experiences. Now, within this fabric itself, like we saw earlier, you also have Azure Databricks that already can act as a source. So you have that unified interface where you also have data, because Fabric supports Parquet format. You have data that is coming from Databricks also sitting within Fabric. So I would rather say the left side is of data and the right side is of AI, and they together can actually enhance your data insights. So you could build enterprise chat applications to cover insights using natural language from structured, unstructured, real time data. Then you could analyze customer interactions, like build speech analytics applications to enhance customer service, tailor support responses, make data driven decisions. And then you could also customize machine learning models, train, deploy, orchestrate machine learning models tailored to specific business needs, from predictive maintenance to customer sentiment analysis. And what we say here is OneLake serves as the connective tissue to build Gen AI apps powered by your data. So it is using that OneLake which we saw, which is the unified platform that actually allows you to very easily build your AI applications, and you could easily uncover insights. So what we're stressing here again and again is that to anyways get or build an AI application, getting your data right is very important. And security on top of all is also of prime importance. Moving on, how do you achieve more with Microsoft Fabric and Azure AI portfolio? So, if you see, what do these two combined give you? Let's move one by one. So, like we said, we have Fabric here, which is more data, and we have Azure AI Foundry here, which is more AI. But when they combine together, they are a powerful combination. So, if you see, you have data science where you have your unified solution for analytics. Then you have Fabric data agents, your Gen AI that enhances data interaction. Then you have Azure ML, your end to end managed ML platform. Then you have Azure AI Agent Service, like we spoke before, your suite of tools to develop enterprise agents. And then you have Azure AI Search, your search index, which streamlines retrieval in RAG. RAG, like we know, is to put it very simply, is the grounding of your data. So basically, whenever an AI agent responds to something, you ensure that it is aware of your organizational context. So that's what RAG means. And like we earlier discussed, that AI search is a good application for considered for RAG ones. Now, at the bottom of it all sits OneLake, wherein it's the unified data platform. And then you have Purview, which helps in data classification in RBAC and applying sensitivity labels to your data. So, this, if you see, provides the unified ecosystem which helps you build data and AI use cases. And you do not need to build anything custom. Most of it is out of the box, which means that you could get started immediately and you could actually fast track your implementation of these use cases. Moving on, now, how is this the full enterprise package? So, uh, maybe now we deep dive on Azure AI Foundry Agent Service, because we spoke that Foundry Agent Service is capable of building single and multiple agents. Now, what makes it different, or what makes it so interesting? Let's go one by one. So, if you see at the left, the first thing that we speak about is trust. So if you see that, you can control your data, your networking, and your security. So while when you create an Azure AI agent service, while it does have default settings, but you can get your own file storage, you can get your own search index, your own virtual network, and thread storage. So here you can customize it so that you could use specific components which you would want to use and not the default ones. So trust, because you have the complete control over your network, your storage, your indexes. This is the first part. We move to the second part, that is choice. So model choice and flexibility with the model catalog. So like we were discussing earlier, it's not only restricted to Azure OpenAI. You also have a Llama, you have Mistral, you have Cohere, you name it and you have it. So you have like a big option list from even Hugging Face. So you don't really have to go out of the system to actually get some model. Most of the models you will already find sitting in Azure AI Foundry Agent Service as an integration to create an agent. And then if you go to the right, so now here introducing a new concept called as skill. What is a skill? You could basically say skill is more like an enhancement of that agent. Also in today's day, you would mention it as a tool or a plugin. What happens is you could create a skill, and then you could allow that agent to ideally dip into a Fabric or a SharePoint, Bing search, or any other cloud service to actually get data, and that acts as the knowledge repo for that agent for answering questions. So skill enhances the knowledge of an agent. Then there are also actions. So if you see, you can connect an agent to logic apps, Azure Functions, anything that supports OpenAI, OpenAPI. So hence you can also integrate these agents with, say, an Azure function, and that in turn calls some custom service. So you can build like an end-to-end automated flow using the skills option. Now there are also options wherein you say that, a part of a very complicated functionality you need to implement using Azure Foundry service. You also have the option of building a skill which, you write a small bit of code, integrated that into AI. Or you also have the option of integrating Azure AI Foundry agent service with the rest of the ecosystem, like you could integrate that with an AI search. So all these advanced options are also available, which gives you the best of both worlds, right? So you get the option of quickly creating an agent service using the default service that Azure provides. At the same time, you could get a high degree of customization in the way your organization supports to build use cases quickly. So this is how you get the full enterprise package using an Azure AI Foundry agent service. Moving on, I think now we come to the demo. So what do we have in the demo? And maybe I will see now how do I share the demo slide. Give me a second. So what we have in the demo here is I'm going to present how we integrate your Foundry and Power BI. So I will first show you a recorded demo, and then maybe we will go to the actual one. I will also show you the interface. Uh, Here we are. I will play it and I will explain it also as we go along. So the first thing that you see here, the screen that you are seeing here, is actually the Fabric interface that you see. Now, what happens here is first I am trying to create a Fabric agent. We will go through it step by step. And then I will show you how that integrates with an AI. So if you remember in our slides, what we said was that at the left side sits Fabric and on the right side sits AI. Both these are actually integrated to give you the end-to-end ecosystem. And here in the demo, we will see how. So this is my Fabric interface. I will start playing the demo. So if you see, the first step that is happening here is we go and click create. When we go and click create, the first thing that is done is building a lakehouse. Now, lakehouse is the unified place where all our data will be stored. So here I have gone and created a demo lakehouse. Now, this demo lakehouse, when you click on create, it will take some time. It will build a lakehouse for you, and here it is ready for you to integrate or ingest your data. Now, when you are doing this, now for the sake of this demo, I have taken a sample data set. So here you also have the option, if you want to just see how it works, you have sample data sets that you could integrate. So here are sample data sets that I have loaded into my lakehouse. And you, if you could see, this is the public holidays list that is already present. So if you see country wise, there are public holidays that are mentioned in this sample data. Now, how do we converse with this is where I say new data agent. So I'll just pause the video and just spend some time here. So traditionally, how it used to happen is that this data used to sit in some, this data used to sit in some, say, traditional data warehouse, and then we would have to maybe put a select star or some such capabilities where you would have to manually go and understand the data. What happens today is that Fabric gives you a data agent out of the box that can actually help you converse with your data that is present in the lakehouse. So you don't really have to go to a select star. You don't even need to know SQL to understand your data. What it does for you is that you ask in English language and it will go and query the data for you. So I think this is a beautiful concept. So let us see how that happens. So when I go forward here, what happens is that I have created a new data agent, and here a new data agent, I give the name of the data agent and I click create, and the scope for this data agent is the data set that I am giving it. So when you go and create this, what it will do is it will build a data agent on top of this data set. And then once this data agent is loaded, I have stopped it at Fabric. I will first show you how this connects with AI, and then we will come back here. We will see the difference. So if you want to directly converse with your data, this is one of the interfaces. You can directly converse with your data in Fabric. Okay, this is the first place. You see that this is an agent, and this is where you can come and converse with your data. I have added the data set of public holidays, and hence here you can keep conversing with your data. Now we come to an important concept of publishing the data. So while all this time we spend time on building the data agent, if others have to actually use this, you will have to publish your data agent. So this is somehow similar to the concept of publishing a report. So when you create a Power BI report and then you publish it is when other people can see it. So in a similar fashion, here is where you actually come and publish the data. So here I say I want to publish this. So it will click on publish. It will publish the data. And once this data is published, okay, I will also have to go and upgrade the settings. So if you see, I go to sensitivity level, you can see the sensitivity is set, and then here I say that this data agent is recommended for others to use. So this is an important step, because once you say that is when you say that this agent can now be integrated elsewhere. Till here, what we did is that anybody who comes onto the Fabric interface can now use this agent. But not everybody might be having access to the Fabric interface, because you typically cannot give every external user also access to your internal lakehouse. So now we'll see what happens next. How do you actually give this access to other users as well? So now we move to the next part of the demo, that is moving to AI Foundry. Now this is the published URL, and this screen that you see is the Azure AI Foundry screen. So for those people who haven't seen it, how we reached this screen, and this is obviously a different topic of its own, but just giving some background. So you go to portal.azure.com, and from there you look for AI Foundry. AI Foundry is a managed service. It is like a complete end-to-end platform for AI. So if you see at the left, you have a model catalog, which we were talking about. You have playgrounds where you can go and quickly test your agentic use cases. Then you have agents where you could build your custom agents. You have templates. There is an option for fine tuning. Then there is an option for content understanding, which is more of your document intelligence use cases. You have tracing, monitoring, while we spoke about observability. And then you also have a complete section on protect and govern, that is evaluation, guardrails, controls, risks, alerts, governance. So it's like an end-to-end package to manage your AI use cases. So going on, so after giving this background, where do we come to in Azure AI Foundry? We come to the agents section specifically. So maybe I'll just unpause it. So in this agents section, if you see, you have this capability again of building a new agent. So you see, I already have a list of existing agents. I have gone and clicked on the new agent button. What happens here is when you click on new agent, you can immediately create a new agent from the UI. So traditionally, people do think that building agents is very difficult. You might need to know lot of coding. That's not completely true. If you want to build your uh, basic use cases or single agent use cases, it is as simple as coming on to the Azure portal and actually clicking on the new agent. We'll keep going forward. You will see how easy it is. So this is the agent ID. I change the agent name. I name it as a Fabric Data Agent. And then what you will see here, what does this agent actually need? It needs a deployment. So I have already created a deployment of a GPT-4o Mini within my Azure AI Foundry. And hence, what it needs is it needs an LLM model at the backend. That's what gives it the intelligence or the capability to become autonomous. So the GPT-4o Mini is the version of deployment that I have used for this demo. And then you see there is a column called instruction. So this instruction also is very important because this is what tells the agent what is it supposed to do. So you have to instruct, and then it takes assumes the role of that person, or goes through your instructions. This is also called as prompt engineering, and it's a very important concept because it makes the agent, it sets the boundaries for the agent. At the same time, it instructs the agent of what exactly needs to be done. So the instructions column is very important. What I tell the agent here is that you are a data engineer, and you have to answer the questions which have been given on holidays. But in more complicated use cases where you actually need the agent to perform like a series of steps, there will be detailing out that you will have to do in this section on exactly what you expect. You will also have to tell the agent that do not put anything, or do not imagine on your own, just state the facts, or just keep it limited to the data set. So all these things are the guardrails that you even set within the prompt to ensure that your agent does not cross the boundaries. So once we give the instructions to the agent, the next thing that is done is now, which is the prime motto of our demo here, we want to show that how do we integrate a foundry with a fabric. And here I will pause it and say that this is where, now this was the place where also you saw that there were multiple connections that could have actually been done. So an agent can go and connect with a lot of existing ecosystems that are there. This is again purely through UI, you don't even need to code anything for it. But here, since the scope of this session is showing the integration with fabric, if you click on fabric and if you come onto this screen, you will see that here you can build a connection. Now, while I already have one connection, I will show how a new connection is built. So I went and clicked on new connection. Now, in this new connection here, there are two fields that are very important, because now whatever we created as a part of Fabric, we have to connect it here to Azure AI. And hence, what we are saying here is there are two important parameters, the workspace ID and the artifact ID. And then you have to give a connection name. Now, where do you find the workspace ID and the artifact ID? We go back to Fabric and we see that here there is a workspace ID, and then there is also, we come here and we fill it back in the workspace ID column, and then there is also a artifact ID. We pick that up from here and then we paste it back here. Now, what have we done? We are now trying to connect it to the data agent that we built here, that we built in Fabric. What is happening with this is that once you create this agent in Azure AI Foundry, this makes it available to a larger set of audience, because then this agent can actually be published to a wider set. It can interface with your custom applications, and it could act as a knowledge source for all other use cases. So traditionally you would there are requirements with many customers where they need to build a data agent on their lakehouse and then integrate it with their existing applications. What we are seeing here is that you don't need to do this in any custom fashion. All this is built by Microsoft for you within Fabric and within Foundry. You just have to use this integration and you're good to go. So I'll just show you. So we put in the custom keys here and I gave it a connection name, and Here you see that the connection will be created. I will click on connect, and there you go, the two agents are connected together. And now, once all this is done, we now have to test how our agent behaves. So now we go to the playground. Now, this is the playground for AI Foundry, where we are quickly testing the agent. Before that, let's go back to Fabric. So we created the agent in Fabric. We need to see how that agent gets used in Fabric. The same output you will be able to see in Foundry, and you will see how easily we built it. It's not even a matter of minutes. You can quickly, it's just because I've been pausing this demo that and explaining every bit, but if you actually build this is like just takes a couple of minutes to build both these agents and get started. So if you see again here, this is the public holiday agent interface. At the left you can see the data set that is being used. You also see that at the right is sort of a playground which says public holiday agent. Now I start asking questions here. So now maybe I just ask about the public holidays for Netherlands. So what happens here is that now it uses the data set as a reference and it responds to my questions. If you do not know what to ask, if you see at the right hand side, there's also an option of sample questions. So it even prompts you what are the possible questions you can ask if you do not know what the data set is. So now here, if you see, it tells you about the holidays. It also tells you how much time it take to run the query. And now this same query, I will see how it runs from the AI Foundry interface. So when I click it here, you will see that I get the same response. So, and it also tells you that it is using the Microsoft Fabric as a reference to answer this question. Now, what is important here is that after doing all of this, for this agent, if you see on the left, there is evaluation, there is guardrails, there are risks and alerts, there are also thread logs. So, all this by default is present in Foundry out of the box. So, what that means is that I can actually go through all of this and then also govern my agent again with a few clicks. It's not like I have to write any custom code for this. So after all this is done, I go to my thread logs, I can see the traces, I can see all of that. So that again makes it very simple from an observability, from a monitoring, from a governance perspective. So that's the whole idea. Let me see if I can share my screen and show you the interface again. I'm just seeing if it's possible, um, so that I can even show you how that works on the UI. So if I go to my actual screen, yeah. So if you can see, this is where I created my agent. So this is my Fabric interface. This is my playground from where I created my Fabric, where I connected my Fabric to my Foundry. Now, when you go and see here, you can also see the thread logs. So you can actually see this Fabric data agent as a tool. You can see how much time it took at each step. What was the input? What was the output? And you can also see the metadata involved here. You can see the token usage, like I was saying. So, what are the total tokens? What are the input tokens, output tokens? All these generated by default. I have not done anything specific out here. I can just go at every stage, and at every stage, I can say that, okay, at this stage, so many tokens were used, or what happened at each stage. So, it is as simple as that to get this going. I can also here add additional files for it as reference. I can also here go and say that You have to see whether it is adhering to. So this is more of the content safety that we were talking about. So how do you ensure that from a self harm perspective, from a hate and unfairness perspective, how are all these things taken into account? And if you see, this is the playground where I actually can go and test my agent. Now if I want to integrate this in code, it also gives you the code, that this is the code in which programmatically you can write. This is the endpoint of my project, and if I open this in VS Code, I can also go and start editing my code. So as simple as that. So, having said that, today this is what we saw. I will come back to my main screen, which is where I will just present my deck pack. Um, so what did we see from the start? So what we saw was Fabric, we saw AI, we saw Power BI, we saw how easy it is to integrate each of this, and then we also saw that security, governance, all these key components in all of our use cases. And let me see if I can now give you. So all of this, and plus we also saw that security governance becomes important, prime importance in each of these use cases. And also how it's very easy to integrate, how it's very necessary to have all of this at one place, the data. This gets us to the end of our session, and this is your screen. I don't know, somehow you're not able to see this, but try sharing it again. I'll get you the scanning code for today's session, but meanwhile, happy to answer your questions if any. Yeah, I have presented uh, the QR code to share your feedback for today's session. Do post your feedback, and then this is where you visit the other sessions of AI Genius series. Truly recommend if you want to learn interesting concepts in each of these sessions. And this is your exclusive badge to display on your social media. This is where you download the AI Genius certified badge. With that, I uh, hand it back to Isabel.